Hi, good morning. This is Mr. Cornier. We're going to start a brand new unit in quadrilaterals. This is benchmarks 25 all the way to 28. In this particular benchmark, we're going to talk about parallelograms. And in the past, we learned that polygons that had four sides were known as quadrilaterals. So today, in this unit of quadrilaterals, we're going to talk about parallelograms. We're going to talk about the sides and the angles of parallelograms, and we're going to also talk about the properties of parallelograms, which are the diagonals. 25, these are the properties of parallelograms. Now, our first property of parallelograms is if a quadrilateral, which means it has four sides, if it's a parallelogram, meaning the sides are parallel on both sides, then its opposite sides are congruent. So if it's a parallelogram, the opposite sides, they have to be the same. Now here's the abbreviation on this property. Opposite sides of a parallelogram, this represents parallelogram, if they're congruent. So again, this will be JK will equal ML, and then JM equals KL. Let me know if you have any questions on this first property for parallelograms. Okay, welcome back again. This is Mr. Cornier. This is the second property of parallelograms. So if a quadrilateral, if it's a parallelogram, then the opposite angles, they have to be congruent. So notice angle M and angle K, they're exactly the same, and the same thing goes with J and L. Pay close attention to the notation here. Angle J, angle L, they have to be congruent, and angle K, angle M, they also have to be congruent. Have any questions, let me know. Thank you. Third property for parallelograms. Once again, if the quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then the consecutive angles, they have to be supplementary. Consecutive angles have to equal 180. So here's two angles that are consecutive. They both have to equal 180 if and only if the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. Let me know if you have any questions with this terminology. I'd love to go over this with you. Welcome back, Mr. Cornier. Let's talk about our last property of parallelogram. So if the parallelogram, one more time, if it's a right angle, then what we want to do, if the parallelogram is right, then you have four angles that are going to be 90 degrees. All right, so let me know if you have any questions on this particular property of parallelograms. All right, this is our first example in benchmark number 25, letter A. So in a parallelogram, ABCD, so this is going to be our parallelogram. This side and this side are parallel, and AD and BC are also parallel. So, all right, so let's just suppose that angle B is 32 degrees. So let's go ahead and punch that in there, 32 degrees. And let's just say CD is going to be 80 inches. Whoa. Okay. All right, so that's your inches. This is going to be your 32 degrees. All right, and let's say BC, side BC is going to be 15 inches. All right, let's see what they're asking for in this particular example. We want to find out what the segment AD is. All right, it's pretty simple. We know the properties of parallelograms. We know that if it's a parallelogram, the opposite sides have to be the same. So if BC equals 15, we know that BC has to be congruent to side AD. Based on this information, BC is 15 inches. AD will have to be 15 inches. All right, any questions? Let me know. Thank you. All right, this is the second question for example 1. This is letter B. Same situation. We have in a parallelogram A, B, C, and D. It's a parallelogram. Suppose that angle B is 32 degrees, and let's say that CD is 80 inches, BC is 15. We want to find out what angle C is. All right, so let's first of all, let's write down this degrees for this. So angle B is 32 degrees. We know that angle B is an acute angle. We also know that angle C has to be, it's not a right angle. It's not an acute, it's an obtuse. So we know that they're not going to be equal. But we do know this, that because it's a parallelogram, we know that angle B and we know that angle C, both of those are consecutive angles, and they have to equal 180 degrees. So all I'm going to do right here is that I'm going to solve for C. I'll replace angle B with 32. I'll put angle C as maybe, let's just put the unknown variable x equals 180. And in this case, we're going to subtract 32 on both sides. Pretty simple one-step equation, all right? Doing the inverse of addition on both sides, all right? And angle C is going to be 148. All right, let me know if you have any questions with this example. Welcome back. This is benchmark number 25. This is going to be letter C on the properties of parallelograms. So let's go ahead, let's get this started. Parallelogram ABCD. We know these sides are parallel. We know BC and AD are parallel. We know that angle B is 32 degrees. Segment CD is 80 inches. Segment BC is 15 inches. We want to figure out what angle D is. First thing I want to do is some known information. I know that angle B is 32 degrees, so I'm just going to put this in there. All right. One of the properties for parallelograms says that opposite angles have to be congruent. So angle B is congruent to angle D. We know that angle B is 32 degrees. So I'm going to substitute that in. And I'm just going to drop down this angle D. And they're asking us to find angle D. So here it is. Angle D is 32 degrees. Let me know. I'm just using the properties of parallelograms. I will rewind this or look at my classroom notes. Again, that's not the only reference you have. You can look online as well. All right, but if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you. All right, now you're going to be able to apply these properties of parallelograms to these problems. So for the first guided practice, for example, number 1, ABCD, it's a parallelogram. And you have to figure out what is the segment for AB. A, B, C, or D. Good luck. Let me know if you need some help. Bye. All right, we're back again. Let's go ahead. Let's try to work out letter B on this guided practice. ABCD is a parallelogram. You want to find out angle C. What do you think it is? A, B, C, or D? Let me know. All right, letter C for the guided practice. Ready? Hopefully right now you're 2 for 2. You're looking at the notes. You understand what's going on. You're understanding the properties. You're going at your pace. ABCD is a parallelogram. You want to find the measure of angle D. A, B, C, or D. Hopefully you get this one correct. It'll be 3 for 3.